Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the Gamer Guild podcast, your one-stop shop for all things in the wide world of video games. I'm your co-host, Cody Robertson. This week, Nintendo's lawyers are at it again. And speaking of Nintendo, we may be hearing some news about the next Switch very soon. Noah couldn't be here this week, so you're stuck with my ugly mug all day. But first, please welcome this week's guest. From Augusta University's varsity Rocket League team, Dylan Taylor. Dylan, how you doing today?
Pretty good. A little bit tired.
Oh, yeah?
It's been a long day. I had an exam this morning.
Exam this morning.
4 a.m. wake up time. And,
oh, no.
But I got to keep pushing. Got to keep going.
What was the exam on?
It was molecular carcinogenesis.
Okay, so just like super easy, probably.
Yeah, it's cancer.
Oh, wow.
Cancer exam.
What's your major?
Cell and molecular biology.
Whoa, dude. Wow. So not only are you a varsity Rocket League team member, but you're going to be doing big things in the world, it sounds like, too.
That's the hope. That's the plan.
That's pretty cool, man. Well, thanks a lot for coming, Dylan. Good to have you.
Thanks for
So the first question we like to ask every guest here on the Gamer Guild podcast is, of course, what is your favorite video game of all time and why?
You know, that's a very difficult question. And I'll be honest, I'm not the most well-versed in video games. I more so tend to choose one and really hang on to it and stick to it. So when it comes to choosing a favorite, it's a little bit hard. But I'll have to say, although I am, I do play a lot of Rocket League. I'm on the Rocket League team. I'll say my favorite game ever has to be Black Ops 2. Cause it was the first video game I ever owned. I remember going to the store with my mom and I got a Xbox 360 and Black Ops 2. Mm-hmm. And I really just started playing it and fell in love with the game.
Nice.
And it's just been It's been, you can't really play it nowadays. It's a bit nostalgic, but it was probably my first video game that I really actually enjoyed and kind of got me into it a little bit.
Nice. Have you kept up with Call of Duty since then? It's a little different now.
I've tried.
We've all tried, man.
It bores me too much. The satisfaction. It's something about it's missing.
Yeah. It's just not quite, the magic's not there. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Dude, I was a big Black Ops 2 nerd too. So I was just out of high school when the game dropped. And I did the same thing, bought an Xbox 360, played it all the time, played zombies with my friends all the time. Yeah. Loved playing it online. It was weird. I used to like listen to dubstep because it was really big back then. Put my headphones on and like play a little Black Ops 2, man. That was like my thing.
I remember I had it when I was in like 7th or 8th grade, I think was the time frame. And I actually played it so much. I was like so addicted to this game that my mom offered to buy it back from me. And I was like, well, Mom, like, I bought the game. I bought every DLC. I bought every weapon camo. And so she ended up paying me $150 to get rid of the game. And, when I was in middle school, that was a lot of money. Yeah. So I did accept that offer, and that was the end of my Black Ops 2 career.
Oh, man. Well, she just thought you were spending too much time on it.
Yeah, which, to be fair, I was.
Okay. Well, at least she wasn't like totally wrong,
Right.
Awesome. Well, good answer, Dylan. Black Ops 2, awesome. Awesome game, man. Very nostalgic to me as well. Are you going to play Black Ops 6? We talked about that on the podcast a little bit.
Because it comes out in a few weeks, end of October.
Yeah, I think so.
So I want to, but I don't know if I have the time to play it. So
it's a big investment, those games.
And then the games nowadays are like $70 usually.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a little bit of an uptick from what it previously was. And I don't know if it's worth the money. So
yeah, that's always the big question with Call of Duty these days, right?
I'll wait and see. I'll watch some gameplay. Yeah. See if I really want to get it. But
wait and see what streamers like it.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait. Awesome. Well, let's get into some of the new releases for video games this week. The first one is called The Plucky Squire. That came out Tuesday, September 17th. That's on everything next gen, so Xbox Series X, PS5, and Switch and PC. It's a $30 video game, so not full price. That's nice. And it's from a development studio called All Possible Futures. Now, this is an indie action game. It's got an 84 on Metacritic, so reviewing really well. And Dylan, if you know A Link Between Worlds, the Zelda game, it's 3D and 2D, so it's kind of like there's trouble happening in this book. In The Plucky Squire, there's like trouble happening in this book. He's the main character, and you like go around and solve problems in the book, and it's 2D, and then you have to come out of the book, and then you go and get stuff in the 3D world and bring it back in the book. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's a little indie action game. Like I said, 84 on Metacritic, reviewing really, really well. People seem to really like it, but I think it looks pretty cool. It's got a really cutesy, cartoony kind of art style. So yeah, that's Plucky Squire. Any interest in that, Dylan? Does that sound like something you might be interested in?
Realistically, probably not.
All right. Well, it's only $30, so if you're feeling like it, you can check it out for under $70, and that's always good. We like that here at the Gamer Guild podcast. So, all right, here's the next one, and this one's a remaster. So, Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster came out today, Thursday, September 19th. That's on everything next gen except the Switch, which is, like I said, like most things these days. It's only $50, so not $70. That's kind of nice, but it is a remaster. So there you go. It's developed by Capcom. So this is a remaster of Dead Rising, which came out in 2006. It was an Xbox 360 exclusive, and it's like a zombie kind of like horde game where you kind of craft things in the environment, and it's all in it all takes place in like a time loop in this mall, or well, not a time loop, but you're against the clock. So you're basically trying to kill all the zombies and rescue people until a helicopter comes and rescues you. That's like the whole game, but it's a very addictive gameplay loop. Like I said, came out in 2006 on the Xbox 360, so it's pretty old. It did actually get a remaster in 2016, but they added some voice acting for this one, and they like redid all the textures and stuff, made it really HD, that kind of thing.
And I don't know too much about this game, but what it kind of sounds to me like is, I don't remember what it was called, but was it In the Forest or In the Woods, the one where there's a plane crashes in the woods and you're one of the survivors and you have to go out and survive and craft, and there's all these different extraterrestrial life that's trying to come and kill you. That's what it kind of sounds to me like. They just dropped a second one like last year. It was super huge. It was like the thing at the time, but I don't know
like
what
a survival type game.
Yeah, like a survival zombie crafting type of game.
Gotcha. This is more, the vibe on this one is more like a little more cartoony violency.
Okay.
So it's more like, it's not really crafting to survive. It's more like crafting to cause like mayhem.
Okay.
And like kill all the zombies.
I see
like
what you're saying.
Yeah. So there's one really popular one where you get a lawnmower and you just like put it on a zombie's head and just go and then it's gone. So that's a pretty fun one. So that's kind of like just a fun little arcadey type game. But
so it's less of like a horror, more of like a
it's less of a realistic.
Yeah,
it's more just go have fun and kill a bunch of zombies, man. That kind of thing. But yeah, that's Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. Came out today, Thursday, September 19th. It's 83 on Metacritic, so pretty good aggregate score there. Like I said, it added voice acting, so it does have some actual like components that are new now. So that's always a good thing. I always like to see a lot of people come out with remasters and it's just like a new coat of paint on the graphics. You know what I mean? I always like to see something of substance kind of added, like voice acting or, something else, or maybe an accessibility feature or something like that. So that's pretty cool. Any interest in Dead Rising from just that description of what I told you about?
I mean, that does sound actually pretty interesting, but probably won't get it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's $50. It's kind of expensive.
I'm a very niche man when it comes to my video games.
Yeah,
so.
there you go. You got Black Ops 2 and you got Rocket League.
Yeah, that's about it.
Go. Sounds like you like your competitive stuff.
I love competitive stuff.
Nice. Well, hopefully we'll get into some more competitive stuff here a little bit later on. That's it for Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster, so check that out if you're into it. Here's the next thing. This is just a re-release. It's not a new game, but God of War Ragnarok came out on PC today. So you can play that on PC now if you're into that. I have it on PS5. Love that game. One of my favorite games. God of War 2018 is my favorite game of all time. So I love Ragnarok. I think it's better, but I just prefer the story of God of War, the first one. But like I said, releases on PC today. It's $60, so not quite 70. That's kind of nice, I guess. But there you go. Did you play any God of War at all, Dylan?
Never.
Nice.
Never have I ever.
Well, it's a pretty cool third-person action like combo type. Hit them with your axe type game,
Yeah.
I think it's pretty sweet.
It's like a single player game?
Yeah, it's all single player. They had a big sort of a sequel reboot type situation in 2018 that came out, and they followed like the Norse mythology era. And before that, when I was like growing up, they had Kratos in like the Greek mythology, and it was way more, well, it's still violent, but it was like way more brutally violent, that kind of thing. So I love God of War. It's one of my favorite series. God of War 2018 is my favorite game. So I really like God of War Ragnarok. I probably won't get it on PC though, because first of all, I already have it on PS5, and then second of all, it's like expensive. So it's just, everything's just so expensive these days, So that's all I got to say about that. God of War Ragnarok releases on PC Thursday, September 19th, and that is today. So check it out if you like God of War, if you like third-person action games, that kind of thing, and you're on PC, you can now play it. So that's pretty cool. All right, last one for the new releases, and this one's not quite out yet, but still wanted to talk about it, give it a little shout out. Frostpunk 2. I think me and Noah talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago, but this is a strategy game. So it's a real-time strategy. and it's based in, like the title says, a frostpunk universe. So it's kind of like steampunk, but it's very cold, that kind of thing. It comes out tomorrow, Friday, September 20th, on PC only because it's a strategy game. So very point and click heavy, that kind of thing. It's $45, not quite full price, still kind of expensive. And it comes from 11-Bit Studio, the same developers of the first frostpunk game, obviously. It's already got an 85 on Metacritic, so there's some preliminary reviews coming in right now. I'm a pretty big strategy game junkie. Strategy games were kind of, I'm 32, so back in my day, quote unquote, strategy games were like the big competitive games before shooters were. You know what I mean? So like StarCraft 2 was the big one. And I always loved, it wasn't competitive, but I always loved like Age of Empires and stuff like that. So I actually might check out Frostpunk 2 because it looks pretty neat. And it's kind of like if you've seen a strategy game, you kind of know how they are. It's that top-down world view. It's clicking a mouse like to select units or something, or a building or something like that kind of thing. But those are the kind of games that I really like. So I'll probably actually check this out when it drops tomorrow. And then I'll let you guys know how it is because I think it looks pretty cool. But a lot of these games, sometimes when they come out, a lot of real-time strategy games get really buggy. So we'll have to wait and see. Just like every other game these days, just gotta wait and see if it's buggy or just terrible or if it's good. So we'll see how that goes. Dylan, any interest in Frostpunk? Have you ever played any strategy games? Never played
a strategy game. The only strategy game that comes to my mind is Risk.
Okay,
which,
sure.
That more counts. Of a board game. But.
Yeah, that counts. Yeah. I mean, Risk was actually a really popular.
It's a great game.
Yeah, it was a really popular like video game for a while too. Right. It's like a downloaded video game. But you'd actually be surprised how many board games are played on like PlayStations and stuff like that. I have a buddy that plays Monopoly on his PlayStation.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it was, I don't know, I kind of made fun of him.
To each their own.
Yeah, to each their own. But I made fun of him because he invited me over. He's like, we're going to play Monopoly, bro. I was like, all right, cool. Bring it out. What piece you want to be? He's like, no, here's a controller. I was like, on the TV, you want to play Monopoly, bro? Like, come on. Let's
something about that just seems wrong.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like it's not cheating. But it's wrong. It's just wrong. I shouldn't be doing this right now. I don't know. It's just weird. I need a board to flip.
I feel like if you don't have the Monopoly currency in your hands to show off to
you gotta
everybody.
wave it around, you throw it
it's
down.
It's just not the same feeling.
Yeah, and like I said, you gotta flip that board when it doesn't go your way.
Oh, of course.
You can't. You break a controller, it's expensive. You flip a board, no big deal. You just pick it up.
Exactly, and then everyone forgets where their hotels are at. So.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh, we'll never know who won. Oh no, how terrible. Yeah, I'm also really bad at Monopoly, so I didn't like. Yeah. Well, that's all for the new releases this week. Not a whole lot, but some good gems in there. So we'll see how that goes. We'll report on it a little bit later next week. All right, let's get a little bit into the news of this week here, Dylan. Here we go. News story number 1 on the Game Reeled podcast. There is a Watch Dogs movie, Dylan. I don't know if you knew this. I certainly didn't know it. And I actually like the Watch Dog video games, but I had no idea there was a movie. But it wrapped filming a couple weeks ago. So my question to you, Dylan, is do you care, first of all?
I've never played Watch Dogs in my life. Now, do you know what platform this movie's going to be releasing to?
No, unclear.
If it's accessible, I would definitely be interested in watching it. Most of my life, I actually haven't really watched many movies, but I've been getting a little bit more into them recently. So if it was, released on Netflix or something like that, then I would definitely be interested. But
sure.
I'm not going to go buy a streaming service in order to watch it.
Yeah.
Not that interested,
Yeah, exactly. And to your point, I don't think anyone is that interested in it because it's Watch Dogs, It's not Assassin's Creed, the other Ubisoft big name,
right.
In which they already tried to do a movie of and it kind of flopped. So
yeah, considering the fact that I didn't know that, I could assume it flopped.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Michael Fassbender was in it, but it was not a good movie. But yeah, so the article here says the long-awaited Watch Dogs movie. Is like, yeah, man, I'd never heard about it, but yeah, exactly. Yeah, all 3 people that knew about it were really anticipating it. But yeah, I really like Watch Dogs. It's kind of if you don't know the story, it's kind of like it's a little like it's a GTA style game, and I only mean that in terms that it's open world, and you play as like this hacker, and he's kind of like a hacktivist guy. So you're like stealing from people and that kind of thing. And like, he's kind of a vigilante guy. So he solves crimes and stuff like that and goes and helps people. And the whole city is controlled by this one OS called CTOS. And so it just it streamlined everything in the city, but it made it really easy for hackers to exploit everything. So it makes it to where you can control like traffic lights and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay.
Can really manipulate the world like that. I really liked it. People really didn't like it at launch though, because they had this big trailer at E3 when they revealed the game, and they basically lied about their graphics for the PS4 at launch, because the PS4 was just coming out and they wanted to say that they were so great. So when the game came out, it was like noticeably worse in the graphics department. And so everyone got really angry. And so and the game was kind of like, nah, not that great anyway. And we were kind of getting a lot of games like that at the time too. So people were just sick of it. Now, for the movie, they haven't said if they're going to follow any of the games. There's been 3 games. There's been the first one, which takes place in Chicago. The second one's in San Francisco, and it's a little bit more of a lighthearted kind of tone. Like, the first one's like hacktivist guy, but he's like, he thinks he's Batman, dude.
Yeah.
He's like always brooding everywhere, like, my life. I lost so much, that kind of thing. And it's like, oh my God, all right, give it a rest, dude. Jeez, come on. So then the second game, they really lighten the mood, but then they kind of went too far and like, we're just hacktivists having fun out here, guys, in San Francisco. Woo, and the summer's gonna last forever, that kind of thing. And then they kind of tried to split it down the mid for the third one, Watch Dogs Legion, and that just kind of flopped. It didn't really sell that well. I think people just tired of the IP, and they did this weird system where it was like a recruiting system, and it was advertised as you can recruit anyone in the world and they can become a hacker, that kind of thing. And it just didn't really pan out that well. Everything was kind of generic with it from what I hear. I didn't play it that much, to be honest with you. But like I said, they haven't actually said if it's going to follow a specific game or anything, or they're going to like do something outside of the games, into the universe. There is like a faction in the game called DedSec, and that's like the hacktivist faction kind of thing. So maybe they could do something with that. But, in a broader sense, how do you feel about video game movies these days? It feels like they've been getting a lot better lately, with the Super Mario Bros. Movie. There was that Gran Turismo movie that came out. The Minecraft movie just got announced. I don't know if it looks good or not.
I did hear about that. Yeah.
I don't know if it looks great, but it was announced. The Borderlands movie just came out, didn't do well. So have you been watching any video game movies? And, how do you feel about the adaptations in general?
I've honestly don't think I've ever seen a video game movie.
Whoa.
But I do think it's interesting to see them trying to adapt more so to a different demographic, if you will, a different age group, a different platform. So it's kind of interesting to see. Like, I wonder why they're shifting. There's, I guess, increasing in popularity. There's a lot more coming out. So obviously there's something there for them to take, but it's been interesting to see. And then the Minecraft one will probably be huge. So.
Yeah, I mean, because it's called Minecraft.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like Watch Dogs, I think it could be an interesting premise. But yeah, I'm really happy with all the adaptations that are going on these days. Like the Super Mario Bros. Movie, I thought was really good. Fallout, that's another one that's a TV show, but it came out on Amazon Prime. That was a really good one too. So things are really on the upswing for it. I think maybe Watch Dogs is getting swept up into the, okay, now there's been a bunch of video game adaptations and we're getting sick of it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like not everything needs to be an adaptation. We just had Borderlands, a huge flop, probably the biggest flop of the year. And people aren't optimistic about Minecraft either. So they're kind of announcing this at a strange time when people are a little cool on video game movies, just a little bit, even though in the grand scheme of things, they've been pretty good. So we'll just have to see how it goes, I guess. But we haven't really had any more information other than they're done filming. That's pretty much it. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about that. But, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see some more information about the Watch Dogs movie, man. All right. Next news story on the Gamer Guild podcast today. Marathon is going to be $40. So if you are unfamiliar with Marathon, Marathon is going to be Bungie's new FPS game. So Bungie, the studio behind Destiny 2 and like the older Halo titles, they were recently fully acquired by Sony, and they've actually been working on Marathon for a long time. But Marathon is one of their old IPs that they're kind of reviving now. I honestly don't know a whole lot about it. I'm old, but I'm not that old. Marathon's a little bit before my time. So I'm not super familiar with it. All I know is it's another FPS. But the big story here is there's going to be a $40 price tag for this game. And the big question is why? And yeah, what's up?
So This is probably the first game you've said that has genuinely piqued my interest.
Okay.
I was a religious Destiny 1 player.
Okay, nice.
Destiny 2, not as much. But generally, and I believe Destiny 2 has been free to play for the past few years at least. And I don't know if they're plan on implementing the same strategy they use in Destiny. But the strategy in Destiny was to sell this game at a low price and then come out with these DLCs every, 6 months, whatever it may be, which were $20 to $30, $40.
Right.
They could be following that same pattern, but who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And they did just release the final shape, and that was a $50 one. Oof. But, it's interesting because Bungie went free to play after they became independent as a company. So now that they're owned by Sony again, they're not independent anymore. How's that going to affect their pricing model? That's the big question
That'll
here.
Be interesting to see.
Yeah. So, once again, we're just going to have to wait around and see. All we know right now is that it is going to be $40 at launch. Okay. But the other interesting thing is, if you remember from a few weeks ago, Sony did release a first-person shooter for $40 at launch, and it was called Concord, and it did not do well at all. It was one of the worst performing games I've ever seen. Wow. And guess what? You can't even get it anymore. They took it out of the store. I haven't
even heard of it. So.
Yeah, well, you're not going to because they took it off the store. Yeah, so literally, one podcast episode we talked about Concord came out. The next podcast episode we talked about, oh no, Concord shut down, and that was how quick it was. It was unbelievable. But yeah, they're following the same pricing model. They're saying that the $40 price tag was decided a long time ago. And it's just too far gone in the development stage to make it like free to play, Right. So they're kind of just sticking to the plan here with the pricing, but really that's the only news about it. I don't, like I said, don't know a whole lot else about Marathon other than it's just a PvP extraction shooter, that kind of thing. Yeah. But yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see what they do with the pricing. But for now, it's a $40 video game, and kind of sounds like they might go. Just me spitballing here kind of sounds like $40 to buy the game, and then maybe the little expansions, kind of like Destiny. Yeah. If they're owned by Sony, they're going to make you pay for those too, probably. So We'll see. But then there's also Helldivers, and Helldivers did it a little differently. They're a $40 video game as well, and then their microtransactions are mostly just cosmetics and stuff like that. So I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of avenues they could go with that. But are you going to check out Marathon? It doesn't sound very Destiny-ish, but it's a shooter.
Yeah, so, maybe. I might search it up on Steam.
Maybe if they fix that pricing model a little bit, maybe it'll convince me. Put it on sale. And then,
I don't remember the last time I downloaded a game that was over $10. It's been a long time.
Yeah, right. Geez, they're just so expensive now. It's unbelievable. All right, moving on here. The new Battlefield was announced. Apparently EA is going to try and bring it kind of back to basics is what they said. So going back to kind of the modern, and also they're bringing it back to a modern setting. So like Battlefield 3 to 4, that kind of thing, where it's like modern warfare type situation. I was a big fan of the older Battlefield games. Like Battlefield 2 was my big introduction into it. And they had the whole class setting. And I thought that was pretty interesting. But I'm excited for a new Battlefield. Battlefield 2048 did not do very well at all. Yeah. It came out and I was actually pretty excited for it. And when the beta came out, I didn't play the beta, but I heard all the discourse about it. People were like, oh, it's so buggy, that kind of thing. And I was like, well, it's a beta, man. This happens in betas, right? It's
expected.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, oh, we'll forget about it. That's fine. We'll see when it comes out. I saw when it came out and it was the same. So it was like, oh, geez, guys, what is going on here? But, so it's not very popular right now. So hopefully they kind of get back on their feet because I actually really like Battlefield. And in particular, it's not really a hot take, but here's my take. I think Battlefield is really cool because their sound is just so good. I don't know what it is, what they do with their sound. I don't know if it's the Frostbite engine or what, but man, that sound in the Battlefield games, if you hear an explosion next to you in a Battlefield game, it is really convincing. It's like, oh man, it's pretty sweet. So, I'm excited for a good Battlefield. So, I know you're into shooters. Have you ever dabbled into the Battlefield world?
I think I've played Battlefield once.
Okay. Which one do you remember?
4, I believe.
4. Okay.
It was some Steam sale or maybe it was free. I don't know what it was. But I remember I downloaded it and it felt, growing up, under the Black Ops 2 influence, I'm used to Nuketown 2025 all day long. You spawn in 2 seconds, you're shooting somebody, you're getting shot, fast pace. And Battlefield just didn't have the pace for me.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why I ended up
it's pretty
never
different.
sticking with it. It is a lot different. I had some friends that played it, but I never really played it too much.
Yeah, it's a lot more strategic, I'd say. A lot more like war gamey, you know.
Right.
But that's kind of what I like about it. And I like Call of Duty too, also. You know, and I like them for different reasons, right? You know, I like my Call of Duty and you know, I guess if you want to be slow in Call of Duty, you could do Warzone if you really want to, but that's like a totally different thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, different realm.
Yeah, but you know, I like COD for my super speedy, go killer body kind of thing. I like Battlefield for my slow down, be strategic. You know, and it feels really cool when you pull something off in Battlefield too. Yeah. So that's pretty fun. But like I said, I'm pretty excited for a new Battlefield. We'll have to wait and see some more information about it. Here's another thing that EA announced. They are doing some new generative AI technology. They did a little showcase on it where they showed a video of this new like AI text prompt that they're doing. So in the video, you can see someone put in a text prompt for, you know, like a normal, like a ChatGPT text prompt, that kind of thing. And it says, how can I help you? And someone types in, make a maze out of cardboard boxes. And it, you know, spawns a big maze with cardboard boxes, like done, that kind of thing. So it's generative AI to help with video game design. So that's pretty cool. The kind of problem I have, and I'll play some of the video so you guys can see too, but in the video, it just looked really pre-done and just wasn't convincing, I didn't think. And so I was kind of like, okay, so was this really being done right now, or are you just like demonstrating what it could do? I was a little confused, but I'll dive a little bit back into it here later and see what's really going on. But you know, that's a cool concept, using generative AI to make video game levels. We see it in games these days, like No Man's Sky is a great example, where you have like planets that are completely procedurally generated by AI. So, you know, we see it all the time. But Dylan, how do you feel about AI being used in video game design?
I mean, I think it's cool. I think EA, they're kind of, you know, I'm not too familiar with No Man's Sky and games like that, but it seems like they're kind of the ones that are more so pushing the AI thing as opposed to other companies. Because I think the first, I guess you could consider it to be AI. I don't know if this would be AI. But they started introducing the face scans in like NBA 2K and stuff.
Yeah.
And so you could basically, you know, use your camera, scan your face, and your player more tries to look like you. It usually didn't work out super well. But I thought that was really cool. It seems like they're continuing to push the boundaries, I think. I love, you know, random generation, stuff like that. Yeah. So if there's even more intelligence behind it, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, me too. I think it's a pretty cool streamlining idea. It just makes development faster, less tedious, that kind of thing. You know, and I think the important thing is making sure we don't take a human's job. That's, I think, the big concern with people that they have. But hey, as long as we use our AI ethically and responsibly, it should be all fine. So, but yeah, for the most part, I'm pretty excited about new technology. I mean, technology and video games have been hand in hand since the 70s. And it's kind of just, video games have always just been a way, they were originally a way to demonstrate your computing prowess. You know what I mean? So it just, the technology in video games is actually a pretty good way to determine how technology is around the world, because it just kind of goes up and up together, you know? It's kind of the next thing that happens is technology happens in video games and graphics and stuff like that. So pretty cool stuff. All right, well, that's all we had for EA news. Let's move on to some Nintendo news, some different companies going on here. All right, so we've been talking about the Switch 2 a lot. There's been rumors going on and on and on and on about the Switch 2. What's going to be, blah, 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 this. We finally saw some leaked images of the Switch 2. Now, I'm going to tell you something, Dylan. This thing looks exactly like the Switch. Here, I'll just show you the pictures right here. Yeah, I don't know if you...
Yeah, that's
that looks exactly like the Switch. So it looks no different. People are saying that the Joy-Cons are magnetic now, so that's pretty neat, I think. Maybe like a bigger screen, that kind of thing, which, yeah, okay. That makes sense. But just not a whole lot of detail on it. Looks like a Switch. And, you know, I was thinking about it and I was like, well, what would I want it to be, you know? And I think I would just want it to look like a Switch, to be honest with you. I honestly, I think I want Nintendo to just do the exact same thing, make it a little more powerful, and just bring me my backwards compatible library, and I'll be happy. You know what I mean? So, Dylan, are you a Nintendo gamer at all?
You know, I had the experience when I was a kid of having a DS Lite.
Nice.
That was my first Nintendo experience. I haven't had too much, you know, in recent years. I used to go over to my friend's house. We'd use the Switch for Mario Kart and stuff like that.
Nice.
My biggest gripe is that the control, like the controllers you take off the ends, I don't know what you call those. It seemed like, I don't know if it was his or if this is how it all goes, but I used quite a few, and it seems like they're never the same. I don't know, just the sensitivity and the input, it always seems a little bit different. But I thoroughly enjoy it. I just don't think I'd go on my way to spend the money on it.
Yeah, and I think that's the big question is what's the price going to be?
Yeah.
Because like we talked about last week, the PS5 Pro was just announced, and that's a $700 console. That's so much money.
Right.
You got the Steam Deck, that's $400. You got the PS5 base, $500. You got the Series S, I think is $350. So if the Switch 2 can come in at like $300, $350, I mean, I think $400 would be your top limit. $400, I think that's how much I would spend on a Switch 2. Anything over that, no way. I think they're insane. Because anything over that, you're competing with now the PS5. And from the leak, we've seen that most journalists are saying it's going to be about PS4, a little bit above PS4 type specs. So kind of right in there. So it can't compete with PS5 or Xbox Series X, right? So it's kind of got to do its own thing in the handheld hybrid section, which means it's going to probably compete with Steam Deck, which is fine. I have a Steam Deck. I think it's really good. But it's going to be a matter of the specs competing with the Steam Deck. Now, the price you can set whatever, but, you know, we'll have to wait and see. Just like everything else, we'll have to wait and see. So, Dylan, what is the first game you would like to play on a Switch 2? What's like the first thing that comes to mind? New Nintendo console, what's the first thing you're playing?
Ooh, that's a hard one. You know, probably, I mean, realistically, the only game I've ever played on Switch was Mario Kart and Mario Party.
Okay. Two solid ones.
I'd probably do one of those two.
Nice.
Rocket League is on Switch, but I would not recommend playing it on Switch for anybody.
Really? Is it that bad?
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Okay.
Just because there's so many buttons and mechanics you have to use, it's pretty difficult on the Switch. But I'd probably go for one of those first, get some buddies over and do one of those.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, once again, the big question is backwards compatibility. So will you be able to play Mario Kart or will you have to wait for like a new one? So I think they'd be
a deal breaker for me.
Yeah, exactly. I think it'd be a deal breaker for everyone too.
Yeah.
So definitely for me, like, oh geez. Yeah, I think you'd be insane not to make it backwards compatible.
Yeah,
that'd be the biggest mistake.
Point.
Yeah. Well, that's all for the Switch 2. We'll have to wait and see some other stuff. There's some other rumors that we might get a Nintendo Direct. So they'll do like a showcase about it, maybe next week or the week after. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully the Gamer Guild will be on it. So we'll see about that. Oh, by the way, Nintendo, they invited everyone to their headquarters to look at the Switch 2, allegedly. And the Gamer Guild, I guess their invite got lost in the mail. So we're kind of mad at Nintendo right now. Speaking of being mad at Nintendo, Nintendo is finally suing Palworld. I don't know if you remember Palworld from earlier this year, but it was that survival crafting Pokemon kind of, everybody called it the Pokemon knockoff. And I don't know if you've seen it. It kind of is. Like,
I've seen gameplay.
Okay.
It looked pretty.
Yeah, what do you think? Do you think it's kind of...
I think it's knockoff.
Okay.
I think that's a great description of it.
Okay. You know, people have been on both sides of this the whole time, and Palworld has definitely fallen off in popularity now.
Right.
It really took the world by storm when it came out. I don't understand why, really. I think it was just the novelty of it being, oh, it's like Pokemon, but look, they have guns. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. But my big question here is we see stories like this from Nintendo all the time. They sue people left and right for copyright infringement. And in this case, it's patent infringement. You know, they shut emulators down. They just shut down the Citra emulator, which is the 3DS emulator on PC. And also the what was it? Oh, the Switch emulator, Yuzu, on PC. They also got that shut down from copyright infringement. So they're known for doing things like this. So my big question is, do you think Nintendo should calm down? Or do you think this is a legitimate thing they should go after?
I don't know. Considering the fact that, I've obviously seen the gameplay, and although it does look similar, I don't know if they'd win something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like if you're so, I guess, so forward with everything, with all these different instances that have been occurring, then personally it would put me off a little bit. I'd be like, y'all need to like calm down. Like you're such a huge company and you're, freaking out about these smaller companies producing these products. And it's obviously you want to have, the right to what you're making, but I do think they're taking a little bit too far. I think that would turn me off a little bit as a consumer.
Yeah, definitely. I think people kind of come to that same consensus. There's this stigma around Nintendo now that they'll just sue anybody.
Yeah.
There's actually, I don't know if there's an Instagram page called, what's it called? Hard Drive News. And does it's kind of like The Onion, but for gaming news. It does like parody stuff. And a couple times they've done like things about Nintendo. Nintendo sues small child for making a cardboard Switch because they couldn't afford a Switch. So like, yeah, it's like stuff like that. So there is definitely like a weird stigma around Nintendo. I get really mad at Nintendo sometimes, and I got really mad at them when they released Tears of the Kingdom because they released it at $70, and they've never done that before, and they had absolutely no reason to do that other than to gouge us for an extra $10. And so after that, I was like, oh man, all right, give me the game. But like that was, I'm just kidding. So there is some scummy things that Nintendo has done in the past like that. It's like, hey, what are you guys doing? That kind of thing. So I'm not surprised at this at all. I do think they should calm down. I agree with you. But also I did see the Palworld images. It's pretty similar, man. Like pretty similar. So I don't know. We'll just have to see how that shakes out. All they've done so far is filed a lawsuit. But I'm going to make a bold prediction here. They're going to settle out of court for a lot of money probably. And then the game's going to get taken down. So we'll have to see what goes on with that. All right, that's it for the news, Dylan. Let's talk a little bit about the esports season here at Augusta University. So you're on the varsity Rocket League team. Yep. So you guys just started the season, right? Tell me how it's been going so far.
It's been going.
Okay.
We had our first. So we're currently competing in the Peach Belt Conference, the Masters Division, which is the highest division of the Peach Belt Conference. Last season we competed in the Champions Division, which was the division lower. And the Rocket League team, I wasn't a part of it in the fall, but they did win the Peach Belt Conference last year. This year in the Masters Division, we've gotten a little bit of a wake-up call off the rip. We played Lander on Sunday, and they won the Masters Division last year.
Oh, okay. Nice.
And on top of that, they decided to go out and add a professional player to their team.
Wow.
So we played a team of former Peach Belt Masters Conference champions plus a current professional Rocket League player.
Wow. Stacked.
And obviously it didn't go as we hoped. We almost took a game. We lost a game by a goal.
Okay.
So we were still competitive, but nowhere near where we needed to be for that game.
Okay.
So that was interesting.
Yeah. What are you looking forward to for the rest of the season? Any like big matchup coming up? Are you gonna try and face Lander again? Or
so we actually have a big matchup. So we're competing in the Peach Belt Conference, but we're also competing in what's called Playfly.
Mm-hmm.
They're like more of like a national esports thing with a bunch of other universities. And Playfly, we compete on Monday nights, and this upcoming week, we are competing against Akron Gold. They are a school that is even better than Lander.
Okay.
There is something called CRL. It's Collegiate Rocket League. It's the top 16 teams in the country. Mm-hmm. They all play in this separate league for much higher prize pool and stuff like that.
Wow.
All of these schools have kids on scholarships. Akron Gold has kids on scholarship because they were one of these top 8 teams in the country.
Wow.
So it's not so much. It'll just be fun to have, I guess, see that level of competition.
Nice.
More in our conference, in our division. It'll be interesting. I'm sure it's not going to go as well as we'd like, but
well, it sounds like you're just excited to be there.
It's cool to get the exposure because it also makes us better when we play teams that are, closer to our skill area.
Yeah,
so
100%.
That'll be a fun one.
Nice. Yeah. So when's the next match going on?
The next match will be this Sunday we have bye week.
Bye week. Okay, cool.
Monday will be Akron Gold in the Play Fly Conference.
Monday, Akron Gold, and we can watch it on Twitch, right?
Twitch.
Nice.
As long as, actually, I told Noah not to stream it. But
okay. We'll see.
I'm sure Akron Gold will be streaming it. So.
Okay, gotcha. Well, if there is a game going on, usually it's streamed on Twitch on the AU Esports Twitch page. So check it out if you're into that. Well, I want to ask you, Dylan, how is it like living life as, first of all, what grade are you in again?
I'm a senior.
A senior, okay. So, and you've been playing Rocket League was last season your first season?
Yes.
Okay, so this is your second season. How has it been balancing the school and the Rocket League?
I think our team, we find a pretty good balance. I think we all recognize that we want to compete and we want to do the best we can in Rocket League. But I think we all do a very good job of prioritizing our school first. Me, it's quite difficult. To be brutally honest, I probably only played Rocket League outside of our competition matches, maybe 2 to 3 hours a week. Just because my academic life is just so busy. I'm taking 18 credits and I'm running I'm not running, but I'm part of a research lab. I'm running a volunteer organization with the Children's Hospital and president of a student organization. So there's just so much going on that it's hard to really dedicate time. And although I love playing it, it doesn't quite stack up when compared to those priorities. So it's a hard balance. It really is a hard balance to find. Because it's fun. You'd rather go play Rocket League than go to the hospital and hand out food kits.
Right.
But I think we do a good job of keeping everything in perspective.
Yeah, that's good. So you guys have a good cohesive unit going on.
Yeah.
Is it all the same from last season, or is there any new people, new change-ups?
So last season we had our captain. He went and graduated. So R.I.P. Jordan.
Yeah.
But
he's teaching here now, though.
He is teaching
so
here now.
Still here.
I wish he could still play, but I guess he can't. But it's a little bit of a different unit. So the match that was streamed on Monday was against Kentucky State. That was actually our first time playing together as a team.
Nice.
We have 2 guys. They swap in and out a lot too. So there's definitely a lot more chemistry to come and hopefully improvement there. But
awesome. Yeah, well, you get it through experience, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Just got to play out the season and hope it all comes together,
Exactly.
So I wanted to ask you just a little bit about Rocket League in general, so I play Rocket League just casually, I never play competitive mode. I always play casual because I just get completely destroyed.
Right.
And I just don't have time, So it's 3v3 with your varsity teams, right?
Right.
Are there like positions? Do you guys have a certain strategy you use every game, or how does it kind of work?
Yeah. So, and one thing is, as when you're a lower rank, I'd say like probably anything bronze through champion. So it goes bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, champion, and then there's grand champion, and then SSL. But anything I'd say below grand champion, it's what you call rotations. You always have a first man who's the one challenging the ball, forcing it for the second man to bring it upfield, and then the third man kind of plays back a little bit further as a defensive player. But as you increase in the ranks, it gets a little bit more spontaneous, just because there's so much going on. The ball's moving a lot faster. People are in the air 50% of the game, going off the ceiling, going off the walls, wherever it may be. So it turns a lot more fluid. We have very general roles of, I tend to play more of an aggressive first man role, as Pi, who plays more of a passive defensive role. So we have general roles, but it's always fluid. It's so fluid. It's so fast paced. It's hard to really come up with things are going to work every time.
Yeah, so dynamic, so changing.
Very dynamic.
That's kind of why it's fun, right?
Yeah,
it's
never the same.
Yeah, exactly. It's really fun. All right, I think that's all we had here at the Gamer Guild podcast. Dylan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Of course.
Happy to see you. And be sure to check out AU Esports everywhere you can find our social media. You can check out our Instagram page, our Twitter page, and our Twitch page. So check that out if you're into your esports, and wish Dylan luck for the upcoming Rocket League season, or the currently going Rocket League season.
Yes.
Excuse me. Yeah, good stuff. So next one's on Monday against
Akron.
That's Akron Gold.
Yep.
That's right. Awesome. So we'll see you then, Dylan. Thanks a lot for joining us. From all of us here at the Gamer Guild podcast, thanks so much for coming. We'll see you next time. The Gamer Guild podcast is recorded at Augusta University's Pamplin TVC and Podcasting Lab. Our producer is Jackson Garner. The Pamplin TVC and Podcasting Lab supervisor is Jasmine Garcia. Music is by Ethan Balducci. The opinions stated are that of the individual and not Augusta University.